Okay, good morning and welcome to Just Daf It. Daf Yevamos here. We're learning Yevamos, Daf Ayin Zayin 77. We have a fabulous share for you today. We're going to be talking today about, you guessed it, Ammoni, V'lo Ammonis, Moavi, V'lo Moavis, Mitzri, Edomi, third generation, yes. First two generations, no. What about if an Ammoni man marries a Jewish woman as a daughter? Shayra. That's the main discussion today. I know you all have been anticipating this daf since the day you were born. So finally you have it. And in Yunus Ben Sion, we'll be discussing the difference between Ammoni and Moabi fundamentally versus Mitzri Vadomi. They have different Isurim. There's a Kula and a Chumrah of both of them. La Halacha. The Mitzri and Adomi are usher for two generations. The third generation is mutter, but those two generations are usher both men and women. Ammoni and Moavis are usher forever. The converts are usher forever. Lavo b'kal Hashem. If they're Jewish, they just can't marry a Jewish woman. They can marry other people that are Jewish, like a convertus, Georis. What's the difference in them? Ammoni v'lo Ammonis, the Gemara Darshan, if she's a convert and she's a female from Ammon, then immediately she becomes Jewish and she can marry a full-fledged Yisrael. Mutter b'kal Hashem. What is the difference? Based on the psukim, what is the difference? You're not going to want to miss this. This is a fundamental difference between who I suggested is Ammon and Moab. Who is present-day Ammon and Moab? Who is present-day Mitzri? Adomi, Mitzri, you can pretty much figure it out. Adomi, you're not going to want to miss this. Adomi, I mentioned it yesterday. You don't want to miss who these people actually are nowadays. This is why it helps to be a Torah in Derech Eretz. Derech Eretz, Kol Lomei Torah, Blo Derech Eretz, Roy Shalol Nivra. What does it say? It says something in Yevamos. Yafa Torah in Derech Eretz. Sheyagia Shneim Meshkach Asavon. If you know about the world and you know about Torah, you won't make any sins. You won't stumble over the Gemara. So with me, you don't stumble over the Gemara. With other Magidei Shir, they stumble, you stumble, and then you fall down and you can't get up. And then I don't know what happens after that, but you call for help. With me, you don't have to call for help. You just listen to me. It's better than help. It's enjoyment. It's a thrill to listen to me, of course. All right, let's get started. Ayin Zayim and Aleph. Gemara says, Miyad. We'll start from the second line. Miyad. We didn't find out what actually happened. Miyad. They were bothered by these questions they were asking. Doeg was asking them. He was saying, how could it be? How could you let David be king? He descends from Rusa Moavia. She's from Moab. It says, Dora Siri Lo Yavo Ammon Moab b'kal Hashem. He's not even technically allowed to marry a Jewish woman, a full-fledged Jewish woman. So the Gemara says, Miyad v'amasa ben ish v'shmo Yisraeli asher ba'al Abigail bas Nachash v'chsiv Geser Yishmaeli. Amasa was a son of a person named Yisra or Yeser. In one pasuk it refers to him as Israeli. He married Abigail. Abigail was a sister of David HaMelech. David also married a woman, Abigail, who was not related to him, but he also had a sister named Abigail, who was the daughter of Nachash, what the Gemara says, another place in Basra. That's Yishai, who only died because of the sin of the Nachash. He didn't commit any Averos in his whole life. He was the Gadol Ador, Tzaddik Yisod Olam, but because of the Nachash, because of the sin that Adam Rishon created, Adam Rishon violated, so therefore he died, because every person has to die based on the Nachash. Anyway, this is the same person. Why is it called in one place Yisraeli and one place it calls him Yisrael Yishmaeli? I'm a Rava. Amasa stood up, he took his sword out like an Arab. Amar Kol Misha Eno Shomei Halacha Azu. If you look at some of the flags there, countries, a lot of them have swords in the flags. Shmuel fights with the sword. Jews fight with their mouth. Um, doesn't mean Torah or Tefillah. It means rhetoric. It means debate. Jews are good at debate. So the Gemara says, "Amar kol mi she'eni yomei halacha zu yidaker b'charev." Anyone who hasn't heard this halacha, he proclaims, "Someone say the halacha. Tell us, what is the halacha? Is David kosher or not kosher?" Kach mechublanu beis dino shel Shmuel. I even myself heard. Right, I heard from the Beis Din of Shmuel Aramasi, who was around at that time. Amoni v'lamon is Moav v'lamoavis. It says Xeris HaKosov. Amoni and Amon is Moav v'lamoavis. Xeris HaKosov. We'll find out more of the reason soon. Hemen is he believed. His Amasa really believed. Amar Rabbi Abba Amar Rav Kol Talmid Chacham Shmor Halacha V'Bo. If he's saying a new halacha, Talmid Chacham Kodem Ma'isa Amra. If he had already said it in other places before the actual question arose, and they needed an answer to it, so then we trust him. Shomin love him love. If he now is the first time he's saying in Shomin love, we think he just formulated in order to answer the question. Shiny hacha da Shmuel beis dino kaim. Gemara says no. Even here we believe, even though it's the first time he said it, because they could have asked Shmuel and his beis din. Shmuel, he was saying in the name of Shmuel and beis dino, and they were alive at that time. Obviously, he wasn't afraid of being contradicted. He must be telling the truth. So the Gemara says, kasha. So it's a kasha. Doga had a question, right? The whole svara was, right, because women don't necessarily go to greet. The reason Ammoni and Moav are punished is because they didn't come to greet Klal Yisrael with lechem u'mayim when they were passing by to feed them, or passing the desert. They needed bread and water. They didn't provide it with them. That's only. So they said that's only a man. A man brings in the guests. A man provides nourishment to the wayfarers. We female don't. But Doeg Adam, said, why did the men go out to greet the men? The woman go out to greet the woman. So that's in Welcome. My answer is no. That the real righteous way of a Jewish woman, is to stay inside. A princess, her honor is to stay inside the house, not to go out. Marava Amri, and Eretz Yisrael said a different answer with him. Rabbi Yitzchak Amar Krav Ayomre Lavayei Sarah Yishtecha. The Malach asked Abram, where's Sarah? Sarah was in the tent. She was in the Oel. She was in the tent. Same idea. Kalkura Bas Melech Prima. Sarah, the most beautiful woman ever to exist, would not show off her beauty to outsiders. She stayed in the tent. So the Gemara says Marava Amri. Fine. So the Gemara says, Kitanai, it's actually Malchus. What's the reason it only applies to a man, not to a woman? Amori Lamon is Ma'avla Moav, is Zira Yehuda. Like Rabbi Yehuda, Shimon Omer, Al Dar Shal Kidma Eskam Malach Mamayim, Darcha Shal Kadim, Vein Darcha Shal Ishal Kadim. Basically, two reasons. One reason is harder to understand. I'll have to explain a little more. Just Xeris HaKosov. It says in the Lashon masculine, Amoni is masculine to exclude a female. And the second drasha, Reb Shimon says, it's more like Reb Shimon's Darshan time at the crowd. More, the Torah says the reason they didn't provide bread and water. Only men usually go out to bring bread and water. Females stay in a tent, like the Gemara says. What is the meaning of the pasuk that David said? You opened up my chains. You removed me from my being chained down. Amar David the two chains that I had upon me, you opened them. Barusa Moavim and Amonis, right? He was descended from Barusa Moavia, and Naama was the wife of Shlomo, his son. She was descended from Ammon. She converted, and they had a child, Rechavam, who was the future king from Shlomo. He was the grandson of David. And he was legitimate to be king because even though his mother was Ammonis, but she was converted, so therefore she right away became part of the Kal. David again says in Tehillim, he says, you did such great things. Eli lo never doesn't say to me. David saying not to me, Elenu, to two of us. David's grandson Rechavam was sitting in his lap. Allah v'alech and Emru Shnei Mikros Halal. These psukim, Elenu was referring to both of us, right? Me, I was extricated from my chains and the ball and chain from Rusa Moavia, Drasha Rusha Moavia, and you from Naama Hamonis. Darish Rava, my dichsiv as Amarti ne bati Megillah Sefer. Kasav Alai, Amar David, Ani Amarti Atabasi. David saying, now I came. Below Yadati. I thought now they extricated me from my chains. They said, Amoni Moavi v'lo Moabis. V'lo yadash mila sefer kosav alai. I didn't know in the original Sefer Torah was written like Hasam Ksiv Anim Saos Hakak Ksiv Matzasi David Abdi Hashem Kadshi Meshachtiv. Hanim Saos is a pasuk in Sefer Bereshis when it's talking about the Malachim say to Lo, take you and all the people in your house and get out of here. Who were those people in his house? His two daughters. I mean, some of those people were his two daughters who eventually he had children with. Or, they tricked him into having children. Lot, they got him drunk. They had two children, Ammon and Moab. Those were the names of their children, and those nations descended from them. So David, the Nimsa Os, Xer Shav, Nimsa Os, and Matzasi, David Avdi, B'Shem Kedash, Mashachti, that David found out about it. It was alluded to already in the Sefer, the Metzia. Nimsa Os means they were found, and the house also means they were found through the Drasha. Moavi, V'lo Moavis. David is referring to that now when he's talking in the present time. Amar Ula, his present time. Amar Ula, Amar Yochanan, Bas Geramoni, Ksher L'Kahuna. Yochanan says the daughter of a Geramoni is Ksher L'Kahuna. What is this talking about? The Gemara assumes it means an Ammoni convert, right? Someone from Ammoni converted a man. An Ammonist woman converted and had a child. So the child, the daughter is Ksher to marry to the Kahuna. She's not considered a Halala. She's even Kasha Lakuna. Amar Rava Bar Ula Kaman. Who is this like? Ikar Rabbi Yehuda Amar Bas Ger Zachar Kabas Chalal Zachar. It's Machlokes in Kedusha, right? If someone converts, right? The father was a convert. It's the same din as Kabas Chalal Zachar. If a Chalal, someone who's Pasal to Kahuna, he's a product of a union between a Kohen and a Grusha, let's say, the Chalal. So the father transmits the Chalal status to his son. Same thing, the Ger transmits the status to his son. So he would be an Ammoni. Rabbi Yehud Yossi Pshita Amar Av Ger Shnasa Gioris B'Dak Sher L'Kahuna. Rabbi Yossi says a Ger that marries a Gioris, the daughter of Sher L'Kahuna. Right. So according to Rabbi Yehuda, it would have the status of a ger, zachar, kabas chal zachar. It would have the status of a ger, and a gioris is asura to the kahuna. Gioris, we learned for in the Masechta is asura to the kahuna. So according to Rabbi Yehuda, should be asura. According to Rabbi Yossi, it's obvious she would be ksher l'kahuna. Only the Giores, but if she's the product of Geirim, she would be shared with Bakal. Maybe that's talking about Geirim, which technically are Roy Bakal. But here we're talking about Ammoni, which a man at least is not Roy Bakal. Minalde, the Yaldiv Mikon Gadol Balmana. You learn from a Kon Gadol Balmana. Kon Gadol marries Balmana. Mal Kon Gadol Balmana, she can be also Bavera. You can't learn from Kon Gadol Balmana, right? Meaning, we're trying to say, even according to Rabbi Yossi, who says the child of Gerim is kosher, it would be similar to Amar Kohen Gadol. Amar Kohen Gadol, they have a child. That child is halala. She can't marry to the kuna. She can't marry to the kuna. When it says Mal Kohen Gadol Amar, she can be asa ba'avera. That's not be asa ba'avera. Here we're talking about a ger and a ger Ammoni who married a ger Ammonis. They're allowed to be both. They're both Gerim. They're both not royal of a kal, but they could be together. There's no isser to be together. Chalal yochiach. Whereas a chalal, right? A chalal marries halala, right? Their bia is also not avera. Malachal shkein sirasa avera. Chalal is worse because he was creation. His parents created him ba'avera. The Alman Kohen Gadol, the Grusha, the Kohen, they created ba'avera. Whereas the Kohen Gadol yochiach, Kohen Gadol should prove Kohen Gadol Almana, where their bia was ba'avera, but their yitzira, the Kohen Gadol Almana, they weren't created out of avera. Chazar adin. Right? Both have their chomras, both have their kulas. Lo rizek, rizek, you can't prove it from either one exactly. Asara shavah, but together, the common denominator, she'ena barov kal. These are, right, a halal and alman of the Kohen Gadol are not cases where you normally find they're extraordinary, they're cases that don't happen so often. Ubito psula, the daughter is pasul. Afkan she'ena barov kal, ubito psula. Here also we should say that a Geramoni marries a Gioris Ammonis. the daughter should be psula to marry to the Kohen. Whereas you can't bring from a chalal and a monel Kohen gadol because there's an avera. At least the bia is bavera. The chalal was created bavera. So the Gemara says, Dilma vadai ba'amona shenasa bas Yisrael kamras. And now the Gemara changes focus. But we weren't talking about a geramoni who marries a gioris. We're talking about a geramoni who marries a Yisrael, a Yisraelis, which is an avera, right? An amoni, even though he converts, he can't marry ain't a royal bakal forever. He can never royal bakal. Afagav the biyasav avera bisok sheira. That's the chiddush we're saying over here, that even though it's an usher to be together, the daughter is kshera because she has the din of an amonis, right? A convert amonis should be kshera. Amalei, you're right. The chiyasa Rabbi Amar Yochanan bas geramoni bas mitzri sheni. If you have the case of the daughter of a geramoni and the daughter of a mitzri sheni, Rabbi Yochanan Amar kshera. Rabbi Yochanan says in both of those cases they're kosher. He learns these two cases are similar to a kohen gadol being together with an almana. Rabbi Yochanan Amar kshera. He says they're both kshera in these cases. Top of Ayin Zayim Abayz, the Tani Rabbi Zakkai. What's the proof for this? The Tani Rabbi Zakkai committed Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Zakkai taught the following brisa in front of Rabbi Yochanan. Kim b'sulam amav yikach isha. It comes to a kohen gadol. He has to marry a b'sula. Lahavi giores mikana. This pasuk somehow we'll see in a second comes to include a giores with the same heritage, meaning her parents have the same heritage. Shehi ksheira lakuna. That she is considered ksheira lakuna. Amar lei, when Rabbi Zakkai said this brisa, and he's shown it amav me'amav. What's the drasha? It says the extra mem. It doesn't say amav, the nation, me'amav, from the nation, lahavi psula ba mishnei amamin. To include, he can marry a psula that comes from two nations. V'ad amar giores mikana, and you're saying it's a giores from the same nation, meaning let's say a ger who is an Ammoni and a giores is Ammonis. That's not what it's talking about. It's Shnei Amamin, two different nations. Vasu lo ma'ishna Shnei Amamin. Vasu lo. So the Gemara says ma'ishnei Adamar b'gioros mikana vasu lo. He didn't like what he says. The Gemara says ma'ishnei Amamin. What are the two nations that he rejected? Ilay ma'amoni shenasa Ammonis, my mishnei Amamin. This is Charim Asrum and Akevos Mutaros. Maybe you'll say that he meant it really isn't talking about a geramoni who married a gioris Ammonis. And it calls them two Amamin, two different nations, because in some respect, the nation of Ammon is almost like two different nations, because the males are mutter, are aser. And the Akevos are already mutter. Once they convert, they're already mutter l'bakal. They were saying gioris mikana. You can't say that's the case, because it's the same thing as the original assumption, which was a giores, which is the same heritage. Ammoni and Ammonis have the same heritage. They're from the same nation. I must say, Rabbi Yochanan is explaining the brisa to refer to Ammoni who married a Bas Yisrael. And that's what he's saying. Ma'amav comes to include them that she's muteres, she's called psula, and she's mutter to marry even a kohen gadol. Vika da Amri, Amrle, alternatively, another way of saying Rabbi Yochanan retorted to Rabbi Zakkai. And he's showing it Amav me'amav, lahavi psula ba mishnei amamin. Me'am sheyesh bo shnei amamin. It has to be, she comes from two nations, a nation that has in it two nations. Adamar gioret mikana, and you're saying it's referring to a gioris with the same heritage, a sulo. There's nothing else to respond. L'hach lishna, basically it's the same idea over here. He's talking about an Ammoni who married the Israelis, which is two different nations. The Israelis is Israel. Ammoni, she originally had the heritage of Ammon. The father had a heritage from Ammon. And it's like two nations because the nation of Ammon itself has a distinction that the males are aser and the females are mutter. So the Gemara says, "Ulahach lishna bas mitzri sheni, the ksheira lekahuna." Rabbi Yochanan said it was two things, right? He machshired both the case of Ammoni and mitzri sheni. So mitzri sheni the ksheira lekahuna minale. How does he know? The yolif me Ammoni shenasa bas Yisrael, just like a mitzri sheni, right, who married, let's say, it would be Israelis, just like Ammoni married the Israelis, and Mitzri Sheni married the Israelis. Maybe, and he would say the daughter is Ksher L'Kahuna. So you'll say he learned it from Ammoni and Moshinas Bas Yisrael. Malam Moshinas Bas Yisrael Shkein Akevos Mutaros. There, Ammonis, Gioris from Ammon, the females are mutter right away. Mitzri Sheni, Shnasa Mitzri Shnia, Yochiach. So the Gemara says that it's not a rejection because let's say the Mitzri Sheni married a female Gioris from Mitzrayim. That was a second generation Mitzris. Yochiach, because there, uh, the nekevos are asuros, uh, and we know for sure that the child of a mitzvah sheni marrying a mitzvah shnia, a child for sure is considered. A mitzvah shlishi is considered kashal of a bakal. So whereas mal mitzvah sheni, she not a mitzvah shnia, she can't be also ba'avera. There is no avera. Amon she not a ba'asisrael yochiach. You can't prove it from right. So you can't prove it from mitzvah sheni, but you can. But you have again the case of Amoni Shemasa Bas Yisrael, where there was Biyasa Ba'aveira, and still we say it's Kshera. Chazar Adin, Lo Rizek Rizeh, Lo Rizek Rizeh, doesn't say this in the Gemara, but that's the Gemara saying you can't prove from either one, but together you can prove it. Amar of Yosef, Haini the Shemana of Yehuda, the Amar Amav Me'amav. Rav Yehuda was saying something, it said an extra mem in the pasuk, Ki Masula Me'amav Yikachisha. Lo Yadana Maika Amar, I didn't know what he was saying, and it is like Rabbi Yochanan said, the mem is coming to include Gera Amoni that married the Israelis, the daughter is considered a Kshera level to the Kshera Kahuna even. Kiasa Rav Shmuel Bar Yehuda Amar Haki Tana Kamei. This is what he taught in front of Rabbi Yochanan. Isha Amonis Kshera Bana Me'amoni Pasul. An Isha Amonis, right? Yeah, just a regular case of a woman from Ammon. She converts. She's Kshera level Bakal. Bana Me'amoni. They have a son. Right, an Ammoni, Ger Ammoni, a son from the Israelis, he's pasul. Obita Ammoni Kshera. If the Ger Ammoni has a daughter with Israelis, the daughter is Kshera. Medvar Amurim Ammoni V'Ammonis. She is Gairu. Aval Bita Ammoni Psula. So he said, when he heard this, he said, the daughter of an Ammoni with the Israelis is pasul. Amar Lei Pok Tani L'Bara. The Amar Isha Amonis Kshera, Amoni V'Lo Amonis, B'na Me'amoni Pasul. He said, go teach outside what you said, Isha Amonis Kshera, like we said before. If she's an Amonis and she converted, she's a Kshera Lo Bakal. Amoni V'Lo Amonis, because we know the drasha, like the Gemara said, Amoni, it says the bus masculine, and Amonis. B'na Me'amoni Pasul, how do you know it's Pasul? The Amoni who? Because like the father, you go after the father, the son goes like the father. He's an Ammoni. Upita Ammoni Kshera. The daughter Ammoni Kshera Lamai. She's kosher for who? Ilay Malav Bakal. That she can marry a regular Yisrael. Hashda Imak Kshera Himi Bai. The mother, she's a Gioris Ammonis. She's a Israelis. The mother's Shera Lo Bakal, she's Israel, is certainly the daughter, is El Lakuna. Must be she into the Guna. Ammoni is Gairu. It's only talking about Ammoni that converted. I'll beat them Ammoni Psula. The daughter of Ammoni is Psula. My beat them Ammoni. Ilim Ammoni Shanasa Ammoni is Hainu Gioris Mikana. El Ammoni Shanasa Bas Yisrael. Must be talking about Ammoni that married a Bas Yisrael. So therefore, so he said, once he heard that, that's what he said. Only an Ammoni that married an Ammonis, the daughter of the Kshera, but Ammoni who married Bas Yisrael is not Kshera. Amalei Pok Tani Labara. Sometimes Pok Tani Labara means go teach it outside, meaning it's right. This instance, it means it's wrong. That's what our school here says. And Rashi says that Rabbi Yochanan was telling him you made a mistake from Rabbi Zaka. This is a different version. Before we had Rabbi Zaka was teaching Ammoni, Rabbi Yochanan just corrected him. Now he's teaching him, your explanation of the Brisa is incorrect. The Brisa seems to indicate only if the Ger Ammoni marries a Gioris Ammonis, then the daughter is Kshera to the Kahuna. Teach it outside. Don't teach it in the base medrash. The base medrash is where they learn the Torah. You're wrong. Even a Ger Ammoni who marries the Israelis, even though it's an Aveira for them to be together, the daughter is Kshera of Kahuna because she has a din of a Gioris Ammonis. Mitzri v'Adomi ein asurin. So now we're back to our Mishnah on Ayin Vav and Beis. But Mitzri v'Adomi are considered, according according to the Rabbanan, both men and female converts until 3 generations are Asr. Once the 3rd generation hits from the convert, when they converted, so then they're already both the males and females are much of a bakal. Rav Shimon says no. Rav Shimon says we learn a kal vachomer if by Ammon and Moab, which are Asr forever, right? The converts, it only applies by men and not females. So Misri Adomi, where the whole Isra only applies for 2 generations. The 3rd generation is mutter. Certainly, the first 2 generations are only Asr for the males and not the females. And the Rabbanan say no. The Rabbanan say you're wrong. So they have a tshuva. So the Gemara says, my tshuva. What is? He has a kal vachomer. What's the tshuva? What are the Rabbanan going to say? Amar Rav Barachana Amar Yochanan Mishum Deikal Meimar Arayos Yochichu. You can disprove it from Arayos, right? One of the arayos is that you can't marry a daughter, a mother, and her granddaughter also. You can't marry to a mother and a daughter or a mother and a granddaughter. A mother and a great-granddaughter you could be married to. So the 3rd generation is mutter. We see even when the 3 generations, right, both for men and women, they both can't marry. Both the man can't marry the granddaughter and the mother, and the granddaughter can't be married to this man. It's an Isser. We'll see in the next part. When you have a rayas, both people who commit the erva, the rayos, are liable. It's usher for both of them. It's not just usher for the man. So when it's mala rayos, you can't karis. You can't bring a rayos from arayos, a case from arayos, because here Mitzri Adomi and Ammon and Moab are only lavim. This is more chomer because it's karis. Where's the mamzer yochiach? Mamzer, who's a product of arayos, he's a chiach, right? A mamzer, when he becomes a mamzer, he's a product of arayos. He's only usher levavakal with kol chavalav. Where it says mala mamzer shein roy levavakal laolam, mamzer can never marry in. Misri Vadomi can marry in after 3 generations. Arayos could marry in. Arayos technically, the child becomes a mamzer, but when you do a bia ba'avera, you don't become usher levavakal. Chazar din. Again, we have to circle the logic. Lo rizak rizah, you can't prove it exactly. Lo rizak rizah, you can't prove it exactly. From each proof, asar hashavivem, through the common denominator, shasurin, they're all asar. Echaz char ve'echad nekevos, both by arayos and by mamzer, it applies equally to zachar and nekeva. Afani avi mitzri shayu asurin echaz char ve'echad nekevos. So therefore, through the common denominator, I'll asar both his Charim and Akevos until the 3rd generation. Whereas Malas had a Shavish has had Karis. Even though Mamzer is only allowed to marry Israelis, but he was created through an Isra Karis. The Rabbanan, how do they answer that? Michalal. No, there is a case where there's no Karis. The Chayive Esek, or Belezer ben Yaakov. Belezer ben Yaakov has a unique case that even if a child is halal, he's a halal, for example, he's a product of a Kohen Gadol and Almana, or something like that, so he would also be included to marry a Kohen Gadol. The daughter would be a halala, right? Kohen Gadol and Almana have a daughter would be a halala, so therefore, one of these surim of, even though she's considered, if she were to have bia with somebody else, so therefore she would be nichlal in the Isser Arayis of Besula, Kim Besula Mama Vikach Isha, Isser Chalal. Let's see this one second. I'm sorry. Elazar ben Yaakov says that a Kohen Gadol, right, if she marries an almana who was previously married, that creates a halal or a halal. He even says even though there's an Isser essay, for example, he marries a non-virgin. She had bia, but she wasn't previously married, so that creates a halal. And there's no karis. So there's no karis. And still we see that applies by Scharim and Akevos. So therefore, you learn from Elazar ben Yaakov, you can include him in the Arayos case, so there's no sad kari, so there's no rejection of this. My lo, so what did Rabbi Shimon respond to him? Lo, ki, well, he added actual word no. Ki ha, lo ki, hachi kamar lo. Dili lo svirli Elazar ben Yaakov. There's no, I don't hold Elazar ben Yaakov that it creates a halal from an Isra essay. You hold there is a halal from an Isra essay. Halacha ani omer. Even so, I say halacha Moshe Sinai, not a kal v'chomer. Tanya, I'm going to learn Rishon halacha ani omer v'od mikra misayeni. I'm telling you halacha Moshe Sinai. I also have a pasuk to support me. We find out Rishon also has a pasuk to support him. Banim v'lo banos. It says in the pasuk, banim, children, v'lo banos, children from the Mitzri, the Ger Mitzri are usher to the third generation. Only the men, not the women, that have a Mitzri, Ger Mitzri and a Gioris Mitzri that have a child, and it's a daughter, she would be Muteris right away. You don't have to wait 3 generations. Banim below Banos. We'll get more into the Mitzri Adomi tomorrow. Stick around for Yom Ben Sion, where we'll talk more about the difference between Ammon and Moab versus the Mitzri Adomi. You're not going to want to miss it. Bye.